This video is brought to you by Acorns. If you are complete garbage at both investing and budgeting, let Acorns take those off your hands for you. Use my link in the description and they'll hook you up with just a little bonus to get started. There's no way to sugarcoat this. The 2022 bear market has cost me over $250,000 in losses. When someone suffers that large of a decrease in net worth, especially in such a short amount of time, it's easy to overcorrect. You lose $100,000 in the stock market, and next thing you know, you're buying a lower cost laundry detergent because you think it's going to make up for the difference. But this tendency gave me an idea for the Freeloader challenge. Is dumpster diving stonks? Can picking through industrial and commercial grade trash receptacles yield legitimate gains? And if so, can I apply those gains toward my ultimate goal of buying a real estate investment with the free-loaded income? No pun intended, let's dive in. Foraging through commercial dumpsters generally comes in two flavors. One is consumables. You would be astonished how much food gets thrown out in the US. If you can't afford food, and you also don't want to steal it, then dumpster diving is an option. And number two is recyclables. One man's junk is another man's treasure, and rummaging through the right trash receptacles can yield some very interesting loot. We're going to explore both categories, and stick around because you're not going to want to miss the recyclables part. But let's start off with consumables. But just to keep it real, although I have suffered some pretty devastating losses in the bear market, feeding my 2-year-old daughter something that I found in a dumpster behind Walmart is still below me. So while I will explore this category, I'm not going to personally have my family indulge. I will perform this part of the mission for research purposes only. Earlier this month, I set out on my first foraging mission. I went out for an early morning run to get some exercise, and then paired it with occasional stops to rummage through dumpsters. Now luckily for me, I've got plenty of strip malls near me that all make for great gathering points. Let's watch some film. Alright, it's about 6:30 in the morning. I'm here behind Aldi. I'm going to put my disguise on, and we're going to go see if dumpster diving can be stonks. My immediate concern is that this dumpster looks absolutely disgusting, so we're just going to look at it from a distance. I don't want to get too deep up in there. And let's see. There's a lot of food in there. And there's bugs too. Yeah, I don't know, man. Looking over here at all this bread, I'm hopeful. But then I look over here and I see bugs and fruit. And I lose faith. Anything easy to grab? I don't see nothing. I'm not reaching in here for this one. There's too many insects. Yep. Now, if we roll the film back a little bit, you can see that there absolutely are some edible resources in this dumpster. And if you are a starving person, then this is food. Now, after I put my phone down, I was able to reach in and grab this loaf of bread without too much consequence. And the expiration date on it is June 14th. So that's 2 days prior to when I was actually doing this. Now, this thing has been sitting in the trash can for approximately 36 to 48 hours. You could probably get away with eating bread that's been expired for a couple of days. It's not a huge deal. Personally, I think Aldi employees should be learning how to make bread pudding instead of throwing all this bread into the trash. But once it hits the dumpster, all this decent bread starts getting mixed in with wet food and insects, raccoons, squirrels, and if you're in Australia, then koalas even. Now, I love the koalas myself, but do I want to eat after them? No. But let's continue with the film. We have a lot more strip malls to get through. Alright, attempt number 2 here. I'm now behind Safeway. Let's see if the second store provides us with any more luck than the first one. Alright, I don't exactly have a great feeling about this one either. It's kind of disgusting looking. Let's see. It's going to be a one finger open. Nope. Alright, let's try this other one. This one's already open, luckily. And same deal here. Lots of bread, lots of bugs. This is another no-go. At least I can see what date it expired. Eesh. Alright, June 15th, so that's yesterday. This bread got thrown out in the last 24 hours. That was behind Safeway, another grocery store. It looks like the same exact deal. All these food stores throw out their bread as soon as they hit their expiration date, so they're probably still safe to eat for a little while. But after sitting in a dumpster for 24 hours with rotting fruit and bugs and probably some animals, this is just a little bit unappetizing. But let's continue on with the film. We've got one more grocery store to hit. To my relief, because I don't actually want to open any more dumpsters,
Giant actually locks their dumpsters. Giant locks them so that nobody can go inside these things. Now, they look pretty disgusting, so I don't necessarily want to go inside these anyway, but this is definitely not a good place to do any dumpster diving.
Now, I think they're locking the dumpsters not because they don't want people going in to take stuff out, but they don't want people throwing stuff into them. Now, I was kind of relieved because I was pretty done with picking through dumpsters by that point, but after day one of attempting the consumables deal, here's my thoughts on the matter.
What I'm thinking right now is that dumpster diving is not stonks, but we should be able to figure out a way where we can get our hands on this stuff before it reaches the dumpster. There's got to be a window of time in which things are about to be thrown out, but they're not yet, and that's when we can strike.
I know, I believe that to be the case, so I went to Aldi later in the day and I found the youngest looking employee to ask, "When do you throw your food out?" I explained that I wanted to intercept them in between the store and the dumpster so that I can get my hands on this food before it hits the trash can. But the girl explained that they don't really have a set time for when they throw things out. Anything between 4 p.m. and midnight is all fair game. So unless I'm willing to sit outside of Aldi for, 8 hours, I wasn't going to be able to get what I wanted. But she did ask their manager for when they're throwing things out that day. Now, as soon as she went up to her manager looked over at me, and looked back at the girl, and said something that I knew was not going to be favorable for me. Now, as soon as she went to her manager, I knew that was going to be the end of the conversation. But the manager came up to me and explained kindly that they can't give out that information because they cannot accept liability for what happens to somebody when they go through their garbage can. Now, she did tell me that I'm welcome to forage through her trash can because it is not illegal in Virginia to do so. In fact, it is explicitly legal to dumpster dive in Virginia. But I understand that she can also not accept the liability of recommending to people when they should most appropriately feast on their trash can. She also did bring up a great point. If you are a hungry person, you can go to a food pantry or a soup kitchen and you can get some free food there. They're not going to ask you to demonstrate that you can't afford food yourself. But I tried the same approach at Giant and at Safeway, and they gave me the exact same answer. They are not going to tell you when to forage through their dumpsters because then they would have to accept the liability for what happens to you. My final assessment on the consumables side is this. Picking through commercial trash cans for expired food is not stonks. It's too difficult to find safe food to eat, and if you do, you're still more likely to get bitten by a raccoon than you are to fish out your suitable meal. But if you are friends with somebody who works at a place like this can be stonks. Just have them text you when they're about to make a trip out to the trash can and intercept them on the way there. Take all that about to expire bread and food and whatever else off their hands before it ever even reaches the dumpster. Then all of a sudden you have this bread that expired that day, so it's perfectly fine for another few days. In fact, anything other than meats and cheeses is almost certain to be a suitable meal. This can be stonks. You just need a way to get to the food before it ever reaches the garbage. But what about part 2? What about dumpster diving for recyclables? This wasn't part of my original plan, but let's see what gave me the idea. Let's watch some film.
Alright, still behind Giant, what I noticed when I came up here to check it out is there's a substantial amount of scrap metal. Now, this might be a better approach. Recycling scrap metal for profit. So now I have another angle over here. Let's look over here real quick. On this side, let me just get the camera over there. A huge amount of scrap metal. Now I wonder if it's possible to sell scrap metal that you found in a dumpster in order to make some money off of that. That might be a better approach. I don't know what the deal is with this one over here, but it's some rusted out metal. Maybe that could be useful to somebody. What have we got? You get more metal. And apparently, an Amazon card. I can't resist. I'm going in. There's a card in here. Oh, I'm sure it's not active, but I don't know. Can I do anything with this?
Once I saw all this metal laying around, I realized there's probably some theta left on this. If I could get my hands on this metal and take it to a scrap dealer, then I can almost certainly hawk it for some cash. But the first order of business would of course be to find a buyer. Now, I thought it would be difficult to find somebody that would be willing to take all my scrap metal from me, but there are so many scrap dealers in any metropolitan area. Anywhere where construction takes place, there's going to be a scrap dealer. The Amazon card did end up being a bust, but I came back pretty shortly afterwards with my car, and then this happened. Almost all of the metal was gone. All that I could take was these little metal thingy-majiggies. They must have picked up the garbage in between when I went home to get my car and when I came back. In fact, that sound at the end of the video might even have been the truck coming to get the garbage, but I was too wrapped up in my Amazon card to even notice. This was a huge setback, but not a mission failure. So I did go into the larger dumpster and I took out all these metal thingy-majigs, and then I went over to the smaller dumpster, and very fortunately they still had that metal hose in it. This is what my final haul ended up looking like. So my wife was not too happy with me, but she's the one who insisted on coming in the first place, so I can't feel too bad about it. I really didn't know what kind of value I was going to get for this stuff, but I set off to Potomac Metals to see what they were going to do for me. Let's watch the film.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the big haul I thought I was going to get because they had already emptied the dumpster this morning, and instead, here's what we got. So my lovely wife didn't trust me to be doing something not illegal, so she came along for the ride. We're going to see how much money we can get for this.
Now that video got me like 16 views on TikTok, so quick plug here. Can I get some followers from you guys? Like, I'm posting some pretty real stuff on TikTok, and I'm getting fewer views than women posing in front of plants doing like this. All right, I would love some views on TikTok. But once I went inside, this is what happens in the scrapyard.
All right, we're here. This is the recycling center. My wife is about ready to kill me, but this is the exact same metal that I have in my car. So we're going to see what kind of value we can get for it. I don't expect a whole lot, but I'm trying to stay optimistic.
All right, they pretty much do everything for you. Once you get in there, they just take a look at what kind of metal you have, and then they tell you how they want to proceed with it. There were people in there with like F350 and F450 Super Duties that were hauling these big stacks of washing machines and old boilers. And then there's me in there, and I've got my car seat in the back of my mid-size crossover SUV with some metal that I got out of a grocery store dumpster. But they're pretty used to new people coming in there. So you show them what you got, they take this little magnet and they determine what kind of metal it is, then they weigh you up. And as soon as you get weighed, then they give you this receipt to go and cash out. So here's what that looks like.
Wow, this is amazing. You just scan this receipt and money comes out. Check that out, 43 bucks. That's not bad. That's not bad.
Now you can see how excited I was. I thought I might get $20 on the high end. Getting $43 for that blew out my expectations. I mean, that's a good $43 for something that I ripped out of a trash can. Now, the real win here was this metal hose that ended up being aluminum armored copper wire. Copper being the most valuable metal that you can sell to a scrapyard, and aluminum being a distant second. So getting both of them like this was probably the most valuable way that the scrapyard could have picked up material. So I was really lucky in that regard. So is dumpster diving stonks? Yes. I do hereby declare that dumpster diving for discarded scrap metal and selling it to a scrapyard is stonks. And to prove that this process is repeatable, on June 29th, I went back to the strip malls and I found these big metal shelving units. A whole dumpster filled with these wire grates. And I thought I took a picture, but I guess I didn't. But you can imagine an entire dumpster filled with these things. Now, I had my wife's punch buggy that day, so I couldn't move a whole lot of weight. But I did take that one piece back with me and I weighed it. It's 12 pounds. So depending on what kind of steel that's made out of, this one piece could be worth anything from 60 cents up to $3. Now I'm going to expect that it's on the lower end, so we're going to say 60 cents. But if you can move a whole F-150 full of these things, that's some serious money that you're putting away. It's not going to make you rich, but if you can come across metal like this, then it's worth some money. And if on some off chance this did end up being a $3 piece of metal, then filling your truck with it could bring you well over $100. And just to prove my point further, when I went around to the other side of the building, I found this Lamborghini in the parking lot. Now there is no reason for a Lamborghini to be in a Safeway parking lot. I've never seen a Lamborghini there before. But it wasn't mine and I couldn't take it. However, I did take it as a sign that if I continue the freeloader challenge, then one day I will be able to afford this Lambo all with freeloaded income. I understand that's more of a superstition than it is an actual fact, but I stand by it. And my last word of advice here, don't do anything stupid in your pursuit of trash. Don't go into a construction site and start picking up copper wire. Don't go onto private property through a locked fence and start snooping for scrap metal. All you're going to do is get yourself in trouble, and the ticket that you receive for trespassing and theft is going to exceed the value of the metal that you would have picked up. Play it straight, collect aluminum cans from your own party or from your own consumption, and dumpster dive for other metal where it makes sense. Make sure that the garbage that you're taking the metal from is legitimately discarded. Make sure it's not just left aside somewhere on the side of a building where somebody's going to come back and get it. And always, always, always check your local laws before you make any moves. Virginia explicitly allows you to dumpster dive. In fact, I've even read that people come from other states to dumpster dive in Virginia. Now, I don't believe that's true, but you should always check your local community laws anyway just to make sure. Even though Virginia allows it, some communities might not. Don't get a ticket for fishing beer cans out of a dumpster. You're going to look absolutely ridiculous. I appreciate everybody taking the time to watch this video. Follow me on TikTok and Instagram for more genius ideas. And join our free Discord. We have a room dedicated specifically to freeloading. And all of this great information among all of us collective freeloaders can be yours on the house. Thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you next time.